If you find a mistake in your record, you have the right to request to have it corrected. If you disagree with your doctor or health plan about certain information in your record, you have a right to submit a written statement of disagreement that will be kept with your record. You also have the right to know how your health information is used and shared. Now, your provider is allowed to share your information for certain reasons without asking you first, like when your doctors work together to determine how to best treat you when you're sick, or to report the flu when it's in your area. But in general, your providers can't give information to an employer, for example, without your permission. And if you'd like to know who has seen your health information, you have the right to get a report. That's called an accounting of disclosures. HIPAA gives you the right to say how you want to be contacted. For example, you can tell your provider what phone number they should call to contact you and whether they can
we've had that conversation with them. The adoption of the resolution ratifies the city manager's required action executing any interlocal agreement with it for the election. The total amount for this election is $35,532.06. It is considered a purchase of sole source based on a specialized voting equipment required for voters with disabilities owned by Dallas County and available through no other sources in the state of Texas. The agreement was received on February 22nd with a turnaround time of March 3rd, which preceded the next regular council meeting on March 7th. And as we've had conversations back and forth, we have talked, I know that they were looking into these sites, and we have not, I don't believe, I'll ask Ms. Woolman, heard anything back on reducing the number of sites based on the participation numbers. Is that correct?
Oh, actually we have. I've been attending the meetings fairly regularly, and I sent an email on behalf of the mayor's council based on the information that we have from this. And so as they come up and we're going to them, I speak out for one year.
So, but the answer is we still don't know if there's only going to be 5 or there's going to be 17 or if there's 11.
Well, what we're thinking is it's going to be 4, unless you want to add one more. Dallas County, the county commissioners have not seen the final plan in answer to the question.
So the $35,000 in this contract matches up when we had like 17 locations. So if it comes out that we're now only going to have 4, is there going to be an addendum or amendment to this contract reducing the amount to what it would actually be those locations versus the big number?
No less. Ms. Woolman, will we pay less if we have less?
No, because what they've done is they actually gave us the amount that they thought was actually going to apply.
Is it based on the number of individuals who voted or based on the number of sites?
It's based on the number of sites because of the equipment and the people. So what I had was Duncanville Library, Reed Middle School, Bird Middle School, and Fair Meadows Elementary School. So if I need to make a change, I still can.
No, the 4 is fine.
The price just didn't go down.
It's just that included in that price is equipment. So if there's only equipment for 4 and people for 4 versus 17, it would only seem reasonable that there would be a reduction in the amount of the contract.
We'll find out and talk to them tomorrow.
Okay, all right. As long as that's an open item for us.
Yes, and they can reimburse, for example, this time we won't have, as based on our candidates, a runoff, so that amount could change. And so if it changes, we will bring it back to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Item 4C, consider a resolution authorizing a fiscal year 2023 procurement of police ammunition from GT Distributors Inc., Austin, Texas, through by board contract 603-20 for the contractual discounted price in an amount not to exceed $90,000. The City of Duncanville's Police Department purchases ammunition annually for training and duty service. Each year, the Police Department qualifies police officers and police recruits as mandated by the Texas Commission of Law Enforcement. GT Distributors Inc. is a major ammunition supplier to law enforcement agencies with a storefront in Dallas, Texas. The buy-board contract expires on March 31st, 2023. Okay. Keep going? Okay, good. Okay.
Silence is dead.
Silence is good, okay. Item 4D, consider a resolution authorizing the renewal of the Microsoft 365 subscription from CDW Government for a 3-year contractual period at a discounted price of $91,015.75 annually, with a 3-year expenditure totaling of $273,047.25. At the March 7, 2017 City Council meeting, Council approved the strategic migration to Microsoft Office 365. Since the implementation of the solution, the citizens and staff have been beneficiaries of increased service offerings and productivity through the utilization of SharePoint and Office 365, improved collaboration with Teams application, email, and best-class security device management. The National IPA Purchasing Cooperative solicited and awarded the contract to CDW for the period of March 2008 through February 2023. The subscription to Microsoft 365 is a 3-year term, may be renewed annually, and contains a fiscal funding clause. This 3-year term is from March 2023 to March 2026. Quick caveat is if you're new to this, in the past, you know you used to go out and you buy software and you install software. They moved to more subscription-based, which is very common on most software, and we pay a subscription annually for our access.
Tough question.
Yes.
Typically, Microsoft charges that subscription based on seats,
Yes.
to corporate seats. So is there a seat number associated with that dollar? And what happens if the seat number changes in the course of the contract, or is it a blanket number?
This is coming to you because we have increased our seat numbers, and we at one time were trying to keep them under the number. But I believe we need to make sure we have enough seats to represent it. We move, if we, I don't see Gwen here, there she is. Can I ask her to talk about it? Because we move up, we can transition from where we are to that next level, and I asked her to see what the cost impact would be of that.
Right now, this is the lowest price that Microsoft is willing to give us. It is an increase over what we had over the past 3 years by $20,000 a year. I've asked them to go back to see if they would sharpen their pencils. They have not. We are at the 300 level, so 300 and less is this price. Anything else puts us at enterprise, which is much more expensive. So we're doing everything we can to stay at 300.
Oh, okay. So the first tier is 300 and less,
Yes.
no matter what. So there's nothing for a 50 or 100, 300 and less. Okay. Great, thank you.
And the email accounts, just so you'll know, the machines use email accounts, so it's staff, machines, all the applications communicate that way. So we have to have email accounts that you don't see, but that's how Tyler communicates with us.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
All right, item 4E, consider resolution approving the term and conditions of the interlocal agreement between the City of Cedar Hill and the City of Duncanville for a shared purchase and use of a traffic control vehicle, also as we call a blocking vehicle. Over the last several years, there have been a significant increase in the number of fire department vehicles being struck while working accidents on the highways. Within the last 18 months, the Duncanville Fire Department has been involved in 3 separate incidents where our fire engines and our equipment have been struck while working an accident on the highway. DeSoto Fire Rescue has been hit 3 times in the last 2 years while working traffic incidents, and last February, Cedar Hill Fire Department Tower Truck 211 was struck while working on an accident. Each of these accidents caused extensive damage to the fire apparatus involved, resulting in the apparatus being out of service for an extended period of time. The blocker vehicle with the Scorpion unit is designed to absorb direct impact from any vehicle up to 68 miles per hour. The vehicle will also have an array of emergency lightings, making it highly visible, and have the capability to display information on the dynamic message board, giving instructions for vehicles to slow down and to warn of accidents. The City of Cedar Hill and Duncanville Fire Department will split the cost 50-50. The vehicle will be rotated so it is host in both cities for an equal amount of time. The cost of the vehicle is $198,598.94. The split share cost for each city is $99,299.47.
When discussions first started about this, there was some thought of bringing DeSoto into the play also, so it's.
They went and purchased their own.
They did, okay, answer that question. All right. So
They jumped the gun, decided to do it.
Split with Lancaster.
Okay, well, they split with Lancaster, but they went on and done it before we were trying to balance it out.
All right. Yeah, Ms. McBride, yeah.
Well, it's along the same lines. I mean, I want to say I'm very supportive of the concept and stuff, because we definitely need to keep our equipment in good shape and that stuff. But I'm sitting there saying like, okay, well, we split the cost, but it's like, okay, and you're going to rotate it around, but is it more as needed versus just like, okay, it's going to be here for 2 weeks, here for 2 weeks?
It'll be a little bit longer period than that. We've designated our Station 272 right down there in Maine and 67 to be able to run the I-20 corridor in this northern part of 67, then assist Cedar Hill on down to their border. They're going to station theirs when it's their time period at one of their fire stations, and then work that same corridor from one of their fire stations. But it won't be a 2 week thing. It'll be more like
well,
6 months, 6 months.
Okay. I'm just curious because I personally think that Duncanville has more traffic than Cedar Hill.
Oh, we agree with you.
So does the operation of this blocking vehicle take an engineer, or is it just one of our firefighters with a CDL or firefighter with just a Class A? How does that
They'll
work?
have at least a minimum of a Class B
Class B.
driver's license, and there'll be a single driver in that vehicle. So we'll just have to staff that one vehicle for the with that one person.
So presumably, I guess, not knowing business, I'm just thinking how this might would play out in the scenario. One of our firefighters with a Class B license could take the blocking vehicle to the scene and then actually act as a firefighter. Or does that person have to stay with the vehicle and then they basically are out of service for the fire or the accident?
Technically, we would want them to stay with the vehicle. You know, if it has to be moved, we don't have to go be looking for them or something's not operating correctly. We want him to be available to, you know, fix whatever needs to be fixed or moved if it needs to be moved. So he'll stay with the vehicle.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? You know, it's, I'm sure we've all seen this vehicle on the road. You've been behind a convoy of any kind of work, you see the Scorpion. It says the Scorpion's got the logo on it, it's got the big arrows going. So it won't be unfamiliar to us to see this thing on the road. It's something that we're all familiar with, I think. So it's gonna be parked at 271, 272?
So 272 is where we initially intend to park because it's basically halfway between Cedar Hill and Duncanville. But 272 down at Main Street has real good access to all these highways. You can just hop right on and just go north or south if it needs to.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Final item, item 4F, consider an action regarding the request of Rick James, applicant and owner, to change zoning for the planned development district and local office retail district to a new planned development district, and the change zoning from a planned development district and local office retail district to general office - retail district, and adopt an ordinance to amend the comprehensive zoning ordinance, the map on 1A and PT Lot 2A, Block 1, Maryville Addition, Lots 1A and 2A, Marywood Addition, Lot 1, Block 1, James Memorial Addition, and PT TR 23 acres, 3.15262, a slayback abstract 1299 PG 880, more commonly known as 803, 807, 809, and 811 South Cockrell Hill Road in the city of Dallas County, Texas. As you recall, this was one of those that we had to make sure we had the wording just right. We've had hearings on it and have addressed this. On November 28th, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved the replat and of the subject property. The properties are, as I mentioned, the zoning change request was approved unanimously at council on February 7th. Now the zoning change has been approved. 2 ordinances must be passed, one to repeal the current plan ordinance and one to establish the new plan development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is the longest run-on sentence I've ever seen. Very good. So that completes our consent items. Consent agenda items. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 2 on our agenda, briefings and presentations.
Agenda calendar.
I'm sorry. Oops. Yeah, let me jump up here. Item number 2, City Council calendar, 2023 City Council calendar. Turning it over to City Secretary.
The most important updates to the calendar include a special call meeting on Tuesday, March 14th, which is the next Tuesday, beginning at 6 p.m. to interview the board applicants. There are 10 persons as of this date. There may be more by Thursday, March 9th, which is the date we hope to post the agenda for next Tuesday.
I thought that went to March 16th.
We wound up doing the with more votes on March 14th. Also, the City Council agreed at its February 16th special called City Council meeting to conduct the annual evaluation of the city manager on Monday, March 20th, and a special call City Council meeting beginning at 6 p.m. Also, as a courtesy reminder here about the upcoming town hall community meetings to accept public input on the lab property. The first meeting will now be held on Thursday, 2 days from today, followed by meetings on March 16th and 23rd. And Mr. Keys was kind enough to report that the virtual meeting will take place on March 23rd.
So March 23rd is in person and virtual.
I think so. Is that
I
correct?
mean, that's what
It's
we're
just virtual only?
Okay, so the virtual meeting will now take place on March 23rd is solely for the March 23rd meeting. Totally virtual, not in person.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments, questions for city secretary on the
Just
calendar?
for quick, because the second got canceled and that's been moved to the 16th.
That's correct.
Look at April.
So on April the 7th, we have Good Friday holiday. That's what is shown in the yellow on the 7th. And,
And the April 1st event, I think that's the same as that's on the 25th of March.
spring cleanup.
I think it's the same. Wednesday, I think it's
Operation
the
Plate?
hazardous waste.
The 25th is, wait, so the first is the hazardous waste. That's for them to leave the chemicals that
For
they
the
may have at
25th.
home. And then here it says the 1st, but it's the 25th. That's the day of the household hazardous waste. And then the Operation Clean Duncanville. I believe that's the 1st. I was working on the social media post.
Two
That's why
different
it's
events.
2 different events.
So they should be reversed.
Yes,
Okay.
but I have that in my mind because I was doing
Got it,
the
okay, thank you.
Thank you for correcting that for us.
Okay, we got the April again.
And it's not annotated on this version, but April the 6th is the last day to register to vote in the May 6th election.
Okay. First day of early voting, 24th. Thank you for putting the items from the rec center on.
Karen does a good
Nice to
job.
see that, yeah.
And Parks and Recreation folks are trying to provide us all the information that they can, and we're trying to keep up with Mr. Hamby and Mr. Ramos.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
and we got May,
Uh,
or just March and April?
it was just March and April,
March and April, okay.
but she does have a voting.
Okay.
Information. And it's what we were talking about, the work of the Vote Center Advisory Committee is going on. We had actually had hoped to have information to the Dallas County Commissioners on today, but what they realized once we had the storm last week is that it was going to extend the work a little bit more. They wanted to do everything fairly, so.
All right, very good. Any questions? Okay. And that will take us on to item number 3. Briefings and presentations, item number 3A. City of Dallas Plans Commission's public hearing on rezoning of a parcel adjacent to Thoroughbred Hill subdivision. Mr. Jeremy Tennant.
We ran out of space, he's out there. And in nurse Jim.
Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Honorable Mayor and Council, just providing you guys the update with the zoning change request that's occurring in the city of Dallas for your edification. The property is located on Ranchero Lane, which is north of Duncanville city limits. Some of you all may be familiar with the Thoroughbred neighborhood, which is directly at that border here in the city of Duncanville. This is a copy of the plat for your reference. And that proposed rezoning is occurring up here in the city of Dallas section, as mentioned earlier. Just to kind of give you some information from the city of Dallas. CCM Engineering is the applicant for this particular project. As I mentioned before, the address is at 5320 Ranchero Lane, which is the street directly north of this particular property, this particular subdivision. The request is for a change from R10, which is 10,000 square foot, to 7,500 square feet. And that particular area is zoned, it's block 8037, tracks 1 and 3 for official record. The size of the entire mass of the property is 12.26 acres to the north of the Thoroughbred subdivision. And the existing zoning use is R10, which of course that changed from R10 to 7,000 square feet, 7,500 square feet. And adjacent to this particular property is 10,000 square feet. And to the east of the property is 7,500 square feet. So this is basically an extension of the 7,500 square feet, to this particular petition property. There's no existing structures on the particular property. It's currently zoned single-family residential. They're proposing to build 47 pads or lots at this particular property. The maximum height for the houses in this area is 30 feet, and the maximum coverage allowed on this particular property, that's per lot, is 45%, just to give you some information in that regard. Again, this is the zoning, as I mentioned before, but you can visually see it. The 7,000 square feet is to the right, to the east of the property. The property in question is 10,000 square feet, so they're basically proposing, the applicant is proposing to extend the 7,500 square feet to this particular property through a zoning change request, which is going before the City of Dallas' Plan Commission. There are about 15 people in the city of Duncanville that received zoning notice. Here in the city of Duncanville, we do a 200-foot buffer notice. That's a tongue twister, excuse me. A 200-foot buffer notice within the city of Duncanville, which is required by the state. Dallas actually extends that to 400 square feet, 400-foot buffer, and they do other variances based upon the particular use. But in this case, it's 400 feet, which of course included these properties, 15 to be exact, within the city of Duncanville, all in the northern portion of the Thoroughbred Hills. So they received letters for notification so they could either say they're yay or nay for the zoning change request within the city of Dallas. Just kind of give you some useful information for the case status. The initial meeting for this case is scheduled for February 16th. But the city of Dallas, there's another nuance with their zoning with the City Plan Commission. If a certain number of individuals within that 400-foot buffer actually requests for a delay or delay on a particular request, they can delay it, which has occurred. The hearing has actually been rescheduled to March 23rd. So anybody that received notices for February 26th, they can also provide that information in writing and written, or also in person at the City Plan Commission at the March 23rd City Plan Commission. And of course, just for your own notification, everybody's interested, I included the links for the video conferencing. The City of Dallas, they use a system that allows you to actually participate via the meeting online. So you can any citizen can participate by clicking on that link. And also the final staff report will be available to the public on March the 17th. Again, this is for the zoning change. There's another situation where there's a plat that would come in, where that's something that's done after the fact. But this is primarily for the zoning change request for that zoning, as I mentioned, from 7,500 square feet to 10,000 square feet. And some other things for note is that it's a submission of public comments. As I mentioned before, they can be done at the day of the meeting, or they can also be done, they can provide it to the City Plan Commission by 3 o'clock on the day before, which is the 22nd of March. And you can also register online to speak as well, for anybody that's interested in that. All right, the Planning Zoning Review Team, similar to the City of Duncanville, we have a Development Review Committee, which basically involves all the staff that usually participate, such as fire, planning, and building, that comes together to actually provide commentary on the on zoning changes and plat requests and things of that nature. City of Dallas uses the Zoning Review Team. These are the comments that were provided to me by the planner so far. Preliminary, and again, I emphasize preliminary. What occurs with the planning staff in Dallas, they take preliminary reviews. They also have nuanced conversation with their plan commissioners and also the community, which can kind of waiver that particular preliminary commentary or preliminary recommendation throughout that process. So as I emphasize preliminary, staff is preliminarily recommending approval for the zoning change. As I mentioned before, it's literally just an extension from 7.5 to the existing 10,000 square foot acres on the petition site to 7.5. That's really what this request is for before them currently. All right, engineering and traffic, they have no objection to the zoning change, which of course, there's not really anything that they're providing any fodder for that. However, in the fire department, there is engineering staff will also continue to review the proposed residential development and permitting. So if there's anything that comes up, when of course they actually get that plat to kind of like figure out if there's any nuances with the grading and things of that nature, that's when they would chime in more thoroughly. Fire department, they have no objection. City of Dallas is also in the 2015 building code. Two of the things I want to make sure that you guys are aware of. There is, of course, when it comes to the planning section on section of this, which is not the case right now. This is a zoning change. I'm emphasizing this for any nuances, so that way if there's any questions, I kind of help answer those questions at the front end. If there's any, according to the 2015 fire code, there has to be 2 access points whenever there are over 30 units built. And of course, as they're proposing 47 units, as mentioned before, they're going to have to require 2 entry access points into this particular site. So that is something that they will review or look at that time when it comes to the planning. And again, one of the emphasis of the ZRT actually stated is compliance with the above must be demonstrated prior to the issuance of a permit. So that means that nothing can actually go forward unless they actually go through the comments that they provide to them. And this is just preliminary for the zoning, not for the plat itself. At this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, Mr. Ventura, go ahead.
thank you for that report.
Thank you, sir.
Very accurate. I just want to let the council and citizens that are here understand that while we're addressing the zoning issue, and thank you, city manager, for giving me the insight into how the zoning commission works in Dallas. While the meeting that's coming up on the 23rd is one for rezoning, there will be a meeting, assuming that passes, there'll be a meeting later on at some point that will take into consideration the facts of the development itself, including the proposed plat. What doesn't show on here, and this is the only information that's available at this point, is the owner, who is the applicant of that property, is a Thoroughbred Hills resident. He bought the property many years ago right behind him and has made use of a large portion of that property, which he has replatted and he intends on keeping. The portion that's involved in this rezoning is somewhere between the north side of that property that he's keeping and the residence that's at Ranchero. And that's where the required, without this rezoning issue, the panhandle going up to Ranchero was required for that property to have access to Ranchero. If it was a single house or a couple of houses, that was required. And we have the same requirement here. What's not shown on here, because it's early on in this case, is that the owner has made it clear that because the city of Dallas is going to require that second exit for his proposal, that second exit, if you can zoom in on the Thoroughbred Hills, well, just if we can just go to the Thoroughbred, okay, that plat right there, there is a portion of property that that's adjacent to the property that's owned by the applicant. That would appear to be a driveway of some sort, but it's not. It's owned by the HOA, owned and controlled by the HOA, and the owner's intentions are to propose that at a future meeting as the second access way, taking 47 homes and driving all that traffic through a pretty secluded private neighborhood. It's not private, they're city streets, but the impact of that, if that were to go through, would be devastating to that community. And I've been talking for a month to not only the residents in Thoroughbred Hills, but I've also been talking to the people that are heading up the opposition in Dallas. There's a different reason in Dallas, and I won't get into all that, but there's a lot of property owners meeting tonight, as a matter of fact, with the developer. But ultimately, that section right there is what's threatening to the homeowners association in Thoroughbred Hills, because that is the intent. There's no doubt that's the intent of the owner, is to bring that traffic through there to meet the city of Dallas requirement for a second entrance. They have taken a proactive step to pass a resolution, this is the homeowners association in Thoroughbred Hills, to disallow that to be used in the future. They're asking us as a city to take whatever actions we can. And at first I didn't know that we had a dog in the hunt, because there's a separation between our city street and the fence line on the north side of that driveway. And as it turns out, we do have a dog in the fight that I want to exercise at the appropriate time, because we can do a resolution. I'm going to let the attorney, he's been briefed on this, I'm going to let him explain what his understanding is, but I'll tell you that I'm in full support of, as soon as possible, asking for that resolution to be created by our city attorney's office, which would state absolute opposition by the city of Duncanville for more than the reasons I've just described. But the attorney, and if this gentleman hasn't been fully informed of what I've discussed with our city attorney, we can talk to our city attorney. The thing is, time is of the essence. Even though this meeting that occurs, and I think you described it accurately, that we could have a couple of bites at this apple. The residents of Thoroughbred Hills don't want to wait. They would like the city to act as soon as possible to draft a resolution officially opposing the development or the proposed access way through Thoroughbred Hills. Even though they have taken their own actions, they would like our support in doing that, and the attorneys advised me that we certainly could accommodate that. So with that, I'll let, have we introduced the gentleman?
First off, I'm
subbing for Mr. Hager. My name is Caleb Smith, one of the associates in his office. So yes, he has, briefed me on this. If it is council's wish, if there's a consensus for our office to draft a resolution opposing this development or whatever the council would like it to say, beyond opposing the rezoning, if you oppose using our thoroughfare as well, just kind of need instruction on what y'all wanted to say. We can draft that for passage at your next meeting, or consideration rather, at your next meeting. Once and if that is passed, we can either, take it to this meeting to be filed with the city of Dallas, or pre-file it with the city of Dallas, so they have that resolution and kind of know the city's stance in regards to the proposed zoning change up there. But that would just be something y'all would need to instruct us on. We can draft that up for y'all's consideration at your next meeting.
Thank you. Just to close, I want to stress that I've spoken to many people up in Thoroughbred Hills, and while it's really none of our business about the rezoning portion of this, so I don't want to address that, but I have been in contact with the people in Dallas. They know that our decision is a key to their success to oppose this as well. I'm not being used as a pawn to benefit them. It just so happens that if we do create this resolution, it has a strong possibility of killing this effort to come into Duncanville before it gets along any further. I think as it moves along further, the door begins to close on our opportunity to help serve a large population of our city in District 5. And that's what they're asking me for. So I would like to, at the appropriate point, ask for a consensus of council to go ahead with having the city manager request of the city attorney's office to go ahead and draft that document. It's a resolution.
It'd be a resolution, yes, sir.
Want to add, Mr. Contreras has done an excellent job of articulating all the details in this. He and I both, I've got involved in this subsequent to Mr. Contreras getting involved in it, because of the residents contacting me in my position as mayor, and they've given me quite a bit of information and understanding just as well as Mr. Contreras does now. The point of contention, I think, city attorney, subbing city attorney, as Mr. Contreras said, we need to be careful in the crafting of that resolution to focus it on the egress road, which is owned by the HOA, and not necessarily the zoning aspect of it, because the zoning aspect of it, that takes place in the city of Dallas. But it's I guess we can see it right here, Mr. Tennant, can we?
May I make one reference to that as well? It's actually referred to as common ground.
Well,
CG, common ground, is a common ground area.
Yeah, go back though. I think
This one here.
this is it right here, isn't it?
Which one? No, sir, no, sir.
Where is it?
So basically, the
Can
road.
we see it on the, can we go back?
Okay, sure. So,
Where is this egress road that we're talking about?
okay, so this is Belmont Place right here.
Place.
You see this portion right here that's
Right
paved?
there.
Right here,
Okay.
yeah, under the A.
Okay, so that's the piece. All right, and so
Excuse me, I
If-
couldn't see. Okay, can you point, there you go, right there, that little bitty spot
So,
under the,
this is
see it?
Bell
that
Point
little
Place.
beige
If
piece.
you ever drive through there, it's a paved area that's over there, and there's a fence to the back of it.
Okay.
It's obvious that it is definitely out of place, and yes.
See, and that is not an easement. All it is a paved portion of land, and it's owned by the HOA. It is not owned by the city of Duncanville. So what we need to do, and what we are understanding, Mr. Contreras and I and city manager, is that the residents of Thoroughbred Hills are opposing that to be used as the second egresses, which is going to be required by the fire code. That's the point. Going back to those 47 structures with this 47 exceeding the city's fire code, that developer is asking for that HOA-owned piece of property to be used as a second point of egress to comply with the fire code. The HOA owners and the residents oppose that vehemently. They do not want that road to be used as an access point for egress from the development. And as Mr. Contreras correctly explained, if that becomes the second point of egress, out of this development of 47 structures, then those people are going to use that as a regular secondary point of egress to get out of their development. And what it's going to do is disrupt Thoroughbred Hills as it was originally developed to be. Kind of like a gated community, which it's not, but it's a very carefully segregated piece of community. So what we have to be careful of, I see your hand, Mr. Bain, just a moment, please.
Wait, okay, I'm patient.
And as well, usually during city council briefing sessions, comments are not taken by.
I have something to contribute to that particular thing from
Well,
historical.
maybe it would be best during the citizen comment period in the open city council that you would do that.
Yeah, I expect that from you.
Okay, thank you. And I'll be glad to call on you during that point in time, because everything is coming into play.
You don't
So-
want the benefit.
So as we ask for this consensus, I agree with Mr. Contreras. I agree with the residents that we need to oppose whatever's going to be happening with this individual using that HOA and what it's going to do to the disruption of our Thoroughbred Hills residential area. So the crafting of it, as you mentioned zoning 2 or 3 times, what you just said, Mr. Smith. We need to be very careful in the crafting of this, that is specifically focusing on that one particular portion of land. So I have a question. This is pure education because of my ignorance. So looking at that green line, which is the city border, how many feet south of that city line is city property?
I know that there's a 15-foot easement along this property, along the rear, that people access their garages in.
Is that owned by the HOA or is it really city-owned easement? Do we have any, do we have any right-of-way
Good to see
involved?
Ms. Jackie, I'm about to yield to my public works director on that. Could you answer that by chance, ma'am?
As far as the ownership of that land?
No, on the street, on
Well,
the right of way.
There's an easement behind it.
Okay,
There is an alley easement right here, 15 feet.
okay, and that is city-owned property?
The ownership, I don't know the answer to that.
Well, then, yeah.
When I looked at the recorder of deeds, it did not show the city owning anything.
That's
It's
the
not
big
sure.
question. So,
But there is an alley easement there.
okay, so
Easements on
here
ownership.
again, it's coming in, we have to be very careful in this in defining where is the city border and how much of that city border is actually owned by the city. If it's just like 6 inches, or if it's X number of feet, or if there's an actual right-of-way there, because we were butting right up against the city of Dallas. So I think we need to be very careful in having somebody, an engineer or somebody, take a very careful look at this thing to make sure that this is defined, maybe by latitude and longitude or something, degrees, to make sure that the resolution that we are thinking about, talking about here
To answer your
is
question.
very, very clearly defined. Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry, to answer your question, it is 15 feet of an alley easement. The ownership is a question I can't answer to you because I
Right.
hadn't had the opportunity to research it.
And that's why I'm bringing it up now. I think, city manager, this is
Yeah, and I think.
kind of crucial to what
I
we're
think
going.
when you looked at it, and I did not see it, I'll verify I'll know that answer, and the attorney and I will work on that information.
Yeah, I'm certainly aware that the streets are ours.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
question of the alley, there's only, as I recall, there's only 2 alleys in that entire neighborhood, and they're not very long. The one on the north there, and there's a short one down off of the entryway. So everything else is front entry.
Yes, Mr. Cook, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. So, first of all, thank you for the explanation, the background, because I know that there have been zoning cases in the city of Dallas that have been on the border with Duncanville that, that were never brought to us. And I was trying to figure out why is this particular case being brought before us, so I appreciate the explanation. And then my question was about, because you're asking about city-owned property, is Redbird Park within that 400-foot buffer?
No.
I don't think so.
Any portion of Redbird Park?
Go back to the graphic or the photograph. I think you see it even better.
Actually, on that one.
Here.
In fact, that is actually Dallas.
Redbird Park would be way over in here
No,
somewhere.
it's down to your right.
No,
It's
you're
just to the
right.
north.
It's that
Yeah, be down toward
It's that open field.
No, it looks, the dotted line on the buffer there appears that, that is the city of Duncanville. I could be wrong.
Oh, you're talking about out into the south?
No,
The
no, no.
southeast.
Plot 17.
Over there.
Plot 17?
I think Looking at the.
Yeah, that should be Redwood Park right there.
That Redbird Park right
Yes.
there?
Part of Redbird Park is in Dallas.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's why I kept saying, that's
Actually
actually
in
Dallas. So parts in Dallas, parts in Duncanville. Looking at DCAT on the map, it's on the border. So the question is, were we notified as,
Right, because then we would certainly have direct interest. We would have been notified.
So, great question. Did the city get notified from the city of Dallas about that plot 17 being within the 400-foot perimeter?
I don't know the answer to that, sir.
Seems as we may have an opportunity to throw a real roadblock into this. I guess that needs to be investigated.
We'll check it.
carefully, yeah. But if they fail to notify us as a city, then it puts a stop to the entire process.
not in Dallas?
Not in Dallas.
So the properties that are next to it, no. Cardoza, Alfonso, Dallas. Those are all Dallas. So the only thing that, so I just looked at each of these properties. This is Dallas, Dallas, Dallas. The only thing would be the 17, and let me check on that part of 17 to see if that is in ours or is it in Dallas. And I can do that quickly too. That would be down here.
While that's happening, Mayor, I'm gonna say I'm in consensus.
Yes. We got one part. That little bit, that little circle, that little angle right in there, that little part in there.
It is ours.
That is ours.
So then,
And it
city
went to our
manager,
PO box.
city manager, city attorney, then is it our next step actually to notify the city of Dallas that they have failed in the proper execution of the distribution of the 400-foot buffer zone?
I think
Those letters.
first we need to determine if that is the case. No one seems to know whether the city was notified or not. I think that would be the first step, is to determine if the city was notified or not.
Looking at our address, it went to PO Box 380280. We'll verify with them and state we did not receive it, but we'll also check to make sure. We receive them quite often for different things.
Okay, so we have step one. Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
And I just also would add that I am in favor of expressing our opposition.
Yeah, that was my next piece, is that do we have consensus, based on what we've heard, that those present tonight would agree in terms of opposing using that portion of the street as a second egress to the development that's being planned?
Once it's identified that, we haven't been notified, that is our area, but I don't wanna make any haste decision without knowing all the facts.
But is consensus means that we give some direction to the city manager to have the city attorney begin to work on a resolution. Even if you don't consent to that, we have consensus, which is a 4-1.
Okay.
In terms of consensus, in terms of just looking at the drafting of the resolution in opposition to the using of that piece of property as a second egress.
And Mayor, may I add, it is the HOA's property. The city doesn't really have any control on what the HOA does. The city obviously may have heard what their intentions may be, but the city doesn't really have any control over what they use that piece of property for. It would more have to be probably opposition just to use the city's right-of-ways being the roads, not necessarily that piece of property, because the city doesn't quite have a say in what that piece of property is used for. So I think we do need to, if we're gonna proceed, kind of make that clarification. And then if the lower right 17 lot down here is city property, and then the city decides that they wanna oppose, send the opposition to that zoning change, then the resolution could also include that as well. And we would just need direction on what y'all want to include in that resolution and how you, kind of what you're.
In terms of inclusion, is it possible to include what our agreement with the residents of Thoroughbred Hills and their opposition to it?
I'm sorry, pardon?
Is it appropriate for this city council in the resolution to agree with the opposition of our residents that reside in Thoroughbred Hills?
Is there formal opposition from the residents? I guess the HOA. I would be cautious in saying we agree with the HOA's opposition if we don't have something that's formally declaring their opposition.
I'd be glad to look into that. They did do a mail-out vote 65% responses. Some of the homes aren't occupied. People live in other places during this time of year. So, but they did do a survey, and they were gonna do, tally up the votes and make that official. It may have already been done, but I'll verify with them and get them to get something in writing to us. To that effect.
So that's my question is yes, we can, or no, we shouldn't even talk about our agreement with the residents' opposition to it. And that's, I don't know the question, I'm just putting that on the table for city manager and city attorney to make that a point of discussion between yourselves.
What I'd like to say, and something that Ms. Jackie can talk about, is beyond the access, it's a very tight and narrow area, and we could talk about the potential adverse impact that increased traffic would have on very tight roads already. That's a fact that no one can deny, and that is gonna be the biggest problem with it. It's a hilly area. Ice storms create problems already in that community, and so I think there are some words we can tie to this that actually gives real logic to why. And from a traffic standpoint, our traffic folks can tell you what the impact on that neighborhood would be of an increased 40 houses, maybe, coming in and out, if that becomes their point of access.
That's correct, and what I might want to add is, the city can go on record as saying we do not want, this public right-of-way in order for it to be an access road, right? Yeah.
This is not an easy thing. This is complex because of the HOA ownership of the property, our location in terms of what property the city owns, the easement, the right-of-ways involved in all this thing. It's not easy. So there's a lot of work to be done to flesh this out to make sure that we're going to be on pure, proper legal grounds in terms of how the resolutions are drafted.
And if we have a general idea, we can work with the city manager's office. As long as y'all for sure want the resolution drafted, to get that going, to, file the city's opposition in some way, if y'all decide to pass that resolution, we can work with the city manager's office to get that drafted. We just need that first instruction to draft it.
We have consensus to begin crafting it, and then it's gonna be more formal in terms of whether we accept it or not.
What about continued monitoring and for us to continue to engage with the city of Dallas to track and monitor this?
But sure, everything we can do to stay ahead of the game, because I think the way this is playing out is that no fault to the city of Dallas or the zoning commission up there, but there appears to be some intentional leaving out of information as it proceeds on. So this may come as a surprise to many. And I'm saying that based on what I've seen, and I've seen discussions, email discussion going back and forth, and I want to stay out of that business, but I've seen it. I just think the quicker we can take action after we've studied exactly how we want this resolution to be worded, to be safe, that we move on it as quickly as possible for the benefit of those folks up there. Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, may I add?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure that as you guys are building your consensus up, you're also considering the fact that this is a zoning change. You guys are jumping into the plat, so I want to make sure that as you're giving your words to the city of Dallas and the resolution is being formulated, there is an opportunity for them to actually build houses there at 10,000 square feet. And again, I haven't done
But
the
it
math.
won't require that second exit.
They won't require the second exit.
So that's our issue here today.
Yeah, exactly. So with that said, So with that said, if you're denying or recommending denial or going that way, if you're giving it as an alternative, I would just kind of put that verbiage in there as well, just consideration, if you will, because it's like not just saying 100% no, you're just saying not for the density for the 47, which is that calls for them to utilize that on second access. Just throwing it out there for consideration.
Yeah, this is complex. That we have attorneys involved. Okay, I'm going to ask for the council's agreement on something. I'm gonna work out of order here because of the agenda that we have. We have no items for individual consideration. We have another briefing coming up after this one. Then we have 2 executive sessions. Any actions to be taken as a result of executive sessions. Then we're basically done. And going to look to Mr. Bain's comments, I said not typically, it's our policy that during briefing sessions, we do not take comments from citizens. But in view of the agenda and how this thing is put together right now, I think it would be germane to permit Mr. Bain to make his comments So do y'all agree with Mike letting this go out of order, or do we want to let Mr. Bain speak only during citizen comments as appropriate during the agenda itself?
City Manager, you say the staff got the information?
Gus went out and made sure that we got it, so we would have it. And what he shared with us is that Mr. Bain owned several other properties, and that common area is basically a pad, not properly constructed driveway, so it would not hold any kind of weight.
Okay. All right, if that's the essence of Mr. Bain's input and we have that, then we can go ahead. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, he had owned several properties in the past, yes.
And that's the essence of Mr. Bain's input?
And he offered a suggestion regarding the entryway.
We'll work with him.
Okay, then my suggestion to allow Mr. Bain to comment is obviated, overcome by events in terms of him discussing it with Mr. Garcia. Very good, okay. All right. So we have concluded item 3A, looking to item 3B. Briefing requested by Councilmember Jeremy Coots and Greg Contreras related to green space lab presentation district proposal. President, Mr. Jim Jones, President of the Duncanville Nature Conservancy, is presenting this agenda item. Mr. Jones, the floor is yours, sir.
Mayor and council. Got you. What are we on?
We are actually, you got about 4 minutes. You've heard what's gone on before, so as I said, our agenda is very abnormal tonight. We have consent, we don't have any items for consideration, we'll go to executive session as soon as we're done. So
I'll attempt to sail through this. My name is Jim Johns. I'm the president of the Duncanville Nature Conservancy. You would have originally known us as the Lad Advocacy, which started out as citizens that had identified the property at 609 Daniel Road as having some very unique features in the city of Duncanville. And here at the Duncanville Nature Conservancy was formed with the initial purpose of preserving, protecting, and promoting the property on the Ladd property. The Charles F. Ladd Preserve, in discussion for creating the Charles F. Ladd Nature Preserve, will be a backyard destination and retreat from overcrowded concrete laden spaces to learn, explore, and relax. There's been plenty of conversation about the property in general. That being said, the Nature Preserve, its purpose is to preserve the city-owned natural area for the protection of ecological communities and native wildlife, and for the ecosystem services they provide at Duncanville, with objectives to preserve local plants, wildlife, natural resources, and to maintain biological diversity, preserve aesthetic values of the area for all to enjoy, and provide opportunities for passive recreation such as trails, bird watching, outdoor education, volunteering, researching, and the list just goes on and on and on. In addition to that, obviously tourism and a variety of other factors lend itself to the Nature Preserve. So quick background on the property, just a quick refresher. Bob Ladd donated the property to the city of Duncanville in 1998, primarily for the purposes related to the promotion or advancement of cultural, educational, and artistic purposes. In the following 23 years, there were some unsuccessful requests to develop the property with regard to the deed, so on. None of that happened. In December of 21, citizens circulated a petition to support the designation of the creation of the property as a nature preserve. In March, a petition was presented to City Council. The City Council ultimately responded by voting to appoint this Ladd Steering Committee, and we were tasked with providing recommendations on determining the future of the property, which the recommendation was the creation of a nature preserve on the Ladd property. Interesting side note is, today is the 12-month anniversary of that meeting, March 7th. In April of 22, as a result of the creation of the Ladd Steering Committee, the Ladd Advocacy formed itself into the Duncanville Nature Conservancy. And then last December 6th, Duncanville City Council voted unanimously to approve a motion to authorize the city manager and staff to institute legal proceedings to consider amending the park master plan, the comprehensive land use plan, to undertake a zoning text change amendment and zoning amendments necessary to designate the Ladd property as a nature preserve by ordinance. And so what we did is the Duncanville Nature Conservancy, recognizing that the city is making efforts to create a text amendment to the comprehensive zoning plan, worked to help support the city in that regard, recognizing that certainly the planning and zoning and probably the city manager and probably neighborhood services were working to try to create this thing called a nature preserve, being a text amendment. So what we did is we worked to make sure that it was consistent with the deed. We think that it accomplishes that. And in addition to that, we hope that it has saved the city some time, and we hope that it nails what the city is looking for a text amendment. So, what is a text amendment? A text amendment is a change in any part of the zoning ordinance other than the official zoning map, and is considered to be an amendment to the text of the zoning ordinance. So that's what this is. That's what you have before you, and it's a letter that was sent to you back on February 13th. So this would be what is recommended being a green space preservation district. And so the purpose is to provide a publicly and privately, we're talking about a zoning district. And so how does it apply within the city to this property, and how is it worded? It's to provide publicly and privately owned parcels for permanent open space or preservation purposes, including passive recreation, wildlife habitat, ecological, geological, and historical preservation, water quality protection, air purification, science education, nature observation, and continuity of aesthetic open space, and a natural area buffering for the citizens of Duncanville, Texas. The preserve will not contain traditional or customary facilities or improvements associated with a public park, but may contain improvements to support passive recreational activities. Uses. And so when the uses were put together, it was recognizing that on this property, none of us really at this point know when master planning is done what it looks like. Okay, how does it land? And so it presents a set of uses that allows for the creation of a nature preserve, by definition of an urban nature preserve, and hopefully allows for the legislative prerogative of the city management in conjunction with the citizens to achieve a nature preserve that satisfies the needs of everyone. Okay, so that being said, it's a zone. It could be a zone just like a residential or a commercial. So publicly owned areas could be a person. We're landlocked, so we don't have a lot of land, but it could be a privately owned citizen that has a piece of property. A conservation area or an easement. Okay, and so a conservation area would be the definition that we were working with was be utilized to promote responsible management and conservation of natural resources on lands represented by the city. And it can be associated with a grassroots advocacy, education, or other partnerships. It engages people with voluntary actions to keep water, air, soil, and habitats healthy for all. It uses the uses include habitat restoration, enhancement, soil, forest, and health, education, passive activities, and so on. Other uses include paths, trails, including footbridges and pedestrian links. And that is to allow the city to have some options. Just for the sake of conversation, originally the city had talked about a bridge across it. Well, it's a 200-foot bridge. That is not our recommendation and it's not the recommendation of this. The idea is to allow for a set of uses that allows the city to work within its master plan to establish the nature preserve. Uses permitted in a conservation district, which roughly I just described. Open space uses, which include the retention of land in its natural state or the provision of such uses which are compatible with the natural state of and the natural environment. And so it continually comes back to the green space preservation district of a nature preserve. So the proposed allowed uses are as follows. Uses in low-impact structures that serve to restore and enhance ecological processes to educate the public and to foster a sense of connectedness between visitors and the natural environment. Other uses in structures consistent or incidental to the stated purposes of the Green Space Preservation District, not in conflict with the above permitted uses. Buffering, berming, or other visual or sound mitigation not in conflict with the purpose of a green space or preservation district. And frankly, I have no idea what that would be. But looking at the city and recognizing that it could come up, I have no idea why the citizens on Cedar Hill Road would want a berm or a wall or a fence. It's just an option on this property or any other property to allow for zoning. The proposed allowed uses are as follows. Parking areas with permeable surfaces. And the reason is because it's a nature preserve, it's a green space. Fortunately, on this particular piece of property, it's got some natural areas for that. Motorized vehicular access in the Green Space Preservation District is restricted to emergency vehicles, City of Duncanville vehicles, or for specifically approved City of Duncanville projects or activities that are consistent with the goals and objectives of the Green Space Preservation District. And then boundary fences and signage that are consistent with the goals and objectives of the Green Space District. So that would be the text amendment for changes to the comprehensive zoning plan. So in our recommendation, we think that a green space preservation district would be the ideal designation to accomplish the zoning requirements and making the LAD property a nature preserve. That being said, in trying to help the city along with this and partnering with the city, it's working with it. In December 6th, the city voted unanimously to approve a motion to undertake the zoning change for making text amendments to the comprehensive zoning plan with you, Mr. Mayor, stating that it was our intent and purpose to deliver an ordinance to the city of Duncanville regarding the property at 609 West Daniel Dell Road. So that's as fast as I could do it.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a great presentation. We have it. And during this briefing presentation, thank you for that and for the information that's been provided to us by email, which has been forwarded to our city attorney. All of this information is being incorporated into his thought process along with city manager. Okay, thank you very much.
Question? Question? No question?
Yes, sir.
Can we forward this document to the Planning and Zoning Commission for formal review?
City attorney, your question.
Yeah, so this letter can be considered in the development of that text amendment, and it is being considered in the development so far. So it's going to go through, the Planning and Zoning Department, and then obviously to the Commission. And this letter can be taken into account at that point in time. Also, when it comes up to y'all for consideration, if it makes it to a final ordinance, y'all can change it or modify it how you wish. But that letter will be considered and can be considered in the development of the text amendment ordinance.
I guess I'm asking that letter, that document, as is, can go to the Planning and Zoning Commission for formal review.
As
It sounds like you're saying it could be modified, adjusted before it gets to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm asking, is that something they can review as as our text amendment?
No, it would need to be like the ordinance text amendment. This letter wouldn't work per se, as it is.
Not the letter as a whole, but the proposed uses.
Correct. So, no, it's being developed by the planning and zoning department. This is being considered in all that development in conjunction with our office as well, and that will go as an ordinance. So, planning and zoning will develop that ordinance, propose it to the planning and zoning commission. If they suggest approval up to y'all, y'all can consider it and change it how you wish. But this letter, this use in its raw format is not what's probably going to be given to planning and zoning.
What has been presented to us in this PowerPoint presentation is public information. Anybody in the city, including those members of planning and zoning, can access this presentation if you want to consider it as well.
And it can be considered in that development.
Be considered by anybody who wishes to provide input, which Mr. Jones has provided input to me, which I have passed on to our city attorney in terms of consideration and how to develop this ordinance in its entirety as we move forward.
I guess, so my question, I guess I'm trying to understand, because the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission had asked, what's the proposed use? What's the proposed text amendment? And at the time, the city.
To whom was that question proposed?
That was during the joint Planning and Zoning Commission
and
Economic Development Corporation meeting.
And what staff member was there to answer that question?
That would have been Nathan Warren.
I'm sorry?
Nathan Warren.
And what was his response?
He said he didn't know.
Fine, so that his not knowing then means it's under consideration if we find out the information. So deliberating this further at this point in time, this is still a briefing presentation. I believe we need to move this deliberation and question and answer period to a halt. You have your answer from our attorney in terms of the incorporation of this data and the verbiage and the language. Everything's been provided to this point. If the Planning and Zoning Commission has a formal request, then that formal request needs to come through the city manager, coming to our city attorney for a response from the city attorney, because it sounds to me that that's more than Mr. Nate has the ability to answer definitively and categorically for the question from the chief or the head of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So you're saying
it's a question that has merit, but it's not to be answered by Mr. Warren.
So you're saying this green space preservation district text amendment cannot go as is to be reviewed by.
There's nothing to send to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
There's nothing to send?
Correct. This is not an ordinance that can be considered by Planning and Zoning Commission. There's nothing to send.
Why can't they consider?
This is not an ordinance that can be considered. It's a letter from Mr.
We're not
Jones.
talking about the letter. There appears to be
there's a segment of the letter that is not an ordinance. So it would need to be developed in conjunction with our office and the planning department into an ordinance. Planning and Zoning Commission can then deliberate that. If they move it up, if they approve it up to y'all can then deliberate at that point. But Mary is correct. This is just a presentation. This is taken into account in the development of that ordinance and in that definition. Any deliberation or changing by the legislative body of the city can happen once it makes it to that step.
So I guess there's kind of a fog, I guess, for me that's kind of surrounding this process. At some point, we're going to be presented with the text amendment.
Correct.
That's going to be developed by the planning department.
Planning department in conjunction with our office. Correct. And then it'll go to the Planning and Zoning Commission for consideration. If they recommend that for approval, it would then come to the council, who can, then deliberate it at that point, modify it at that point, work on the definition if they don't like what was presented to them at that point, and then take that ordinance up for consideration and potential passage at that point.
Okay. Thank you. That concludes this portion of the briefing and work session. Timestamp on that will be 7:14. And seeing as we do have a unique agenda for tonight, I think it's just as well that we can be done here in this room. Is that acceptable to everybody? Okay. So we will convene the regular session of our city council meeting.
Executive session.
Oh. Well, we can. The only thing that I'm thinking of is the presence of Pastor Jorge Guerrero of Crossroads Lutheran Church to the invocation. And he's probably been out there for a while. Is he out there? Okay. So that's my consideration of him in terms of calling our regular session to order, coming through here, and then taking the executive sessions. How do y'all feel about that?
That's fine.
Okay. All right, okay. So, just make sure he's out there, and then we'll call him timestamp to convene the regular session.
Take a restroom break?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. any citizens that want to, they were all out there when I told them we were staying here, so I assume any citizens that wanted to stay are in here, but they didn't come.
It's on the monitor.
So are they out there, or they're coming in here, or they're choosing to stay out there?
I think most of them actually left, and then a couple are staying out there.
Well, they're welcome to come in here.
Citizen?
I told them we had plenty of room in here, they're welcome to come in here. Double check, Dave. And we are on, right?
Yes, sir.
We are on the air. Not convened.
So you do it.
There are only 2 officers left in the council chambers.
Okay, all right. So, timestamp, 7:29. We are opening our regular session of our city council meeting for the 7th of March, 2023. To open this, we have our invocation from Pastor Jorge Guerrero from Crossroads of Life Church. All would you please rise, and Pastor, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for all that you do, and I've had the opportunity with Mayor and some of you, and I just appreciate everything you do. Thank you for the invitation. On behalf of Crossroads, we are super excited to be able to be here with you guys tonight. So, Father, we just come before you, and we thank you for the opportunity that we get to serve you, Father. Thank you for each leader that's represented in this place, Lord, and I just pray wisdom, Father. I pray favor over their lives, Father, and all that they do, Lord. Father, the agenda that's at hand, Lord, no matter how big or how small, we know that it's important. And we just pray that you give us wisdom there, that you help us, you give us divine strategies as we lead, as we work, live here in this city, in this wonderful community, Father. And just that your grace, your favor be upon us, Father, and just the projects that lie ahead, that your hand be with us, Lord, that you guide us, Lord, and we continue to be a city that's a light here, not only in the southern sector of Dallas County, Father, but all throughout. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Please join me in pledges to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please be seated. I have only one item for the mayor's report. And actually, I want to introduce Ms. Nira McNeely.
Hello. Hi.
Ms. McNeely off. It should be, okay. Okay, City Secretary, would you please read the consent agenda items? Item number 4, please.
Thank you, Mayor. 4A, consider approval of draft city council meeting minutes for the following city council meetings. January 3rd, 2023, regular meeting, January 17th, 2023, regular meeting, February 7th, 2023, regular meeting, February 16th, 2023, special call meeting, February 21st, 2023, regular meeting. 4B, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, authorizing the terms and conditions of the interlocal agreement by and among the City of Duncanville, participating cities in Dallas County through the Elections Administrator to conduct a joint and general election to be held on May 6, 2023, which such agreement is attached hereto and incorporated herein as Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents and providing for an effective date. 4C, consider a resolution authorizing a fiscal year 2023 procurement of police ammunition from GT Distributors, Inc., Austin, Texas, through buy board contract number 603-20 for the contractually discounted price in an amount not to exceed $90,000. 4D, consider a resolution authorizing the renewal of the Microsoft 365 subscription from CDW-Government, CDW-G, for the 3-year contractual period at the discounted price of $91,015.75 annually for a 3-year expenditure total of $273,047.25. 4E, consider a resolution approving the terms and conditions of the interlocal agreement between the City of Cedar Hill and the City of Duncanville for the shared purchase and use of a traffic control vehicle. 4F, consideration and action regarding the request of Rick James, applicant and owner, to change zoning from a planned development district and local office retail district to a new planned development district, and to change zoning from a planned development district and local office retail district to general office retail district, and adopt an ordinance to amend the comprehensive zoning ordinance and map on 1A and PT Lot 2A, Block 1, Marywood Edition, Lots 1A and 2A, Marywood Edition, Lot 1, Block 1, James Memorial Edition, and PT Track 23, ACS 3.1562, A Slayback Abstract 1299, page 880, more commonly known as 803, 807, 809, and 811 South Cockrell Hill Road in the city of Duncanville, Dallas County, Texas. And it says C ordinance repealing ordinance 1462 to provide a new PD, which is -133665. C added Z ordinance block 1 lot 2A to block 1, lot 1R -13666.
Thank you very much. Chair will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. McBurnett, second by Mr. Contreras. Since we are not electronic, we will take a verbal vote. City Secretary, would you call for the verbal votes, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. McBurnett?
4.
Mr. Coontz?
4.
Ms. Cherry? 4. Mr. Contreras?
4.
Mayor Gordon?
4. Thank you. Unanimously approved. And for continuity purposes, we are moving now to executive sessions. I will read those into the record. Executive session 1, City Council shall convene into closed executive session pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code to seek legal advice from city attorney concerning the use of local hotel occupancy tax revenue under chapter 351 of the Texas Tax Code. Executive session number 2, City Council shall convene into closed executive session pursuant to section 551.089 of the Texas Government Code to discuss and deliberate the city's proprietary information technology and security devices for said system. With that, we're going to recess the city's open city council, the open portion of the city council meeting. That recess timestamp is going to be 7:42.
video guru. He's all cool videos.
He's the web guru too.
He's a lot of things.
And he's a wonderful interpreter.
Yes.
I know Bob reminded me that Gabi had a degree in Spanish from San Antonio.
Okay, we are green.
Yes, we are.
We are recording and we are back on camera. We are reconvening our open session for city council. Timestamp on that is 9:08. Reconvening. Going to item number 5 on the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it'll be 5A2. There are no actions necessary as a result of executive sessions 1 and 2. Are we gonna do staff and board reports?
If you like, and you don't have to unless you're just excited and want to hear them, they can give you the 5-minute, 4-minute versions, whatever you want.
If they can do the elevator version, so they're here.
I don't have to be here if you don't like me. So.
Why don't you talk about our new?
You wanna repeat that? Like, I didn't hear what you just said. That's okay.
We're gonna jump to.
Okay. We are on item number 6 on the agenda. Actually, it's Parks and Rec.
Go in the other order while we wait for Mr. Bart Stevens to get
I
here.
don't- Well, Tyler's here, right?
I was not prepared to present, but.
I do not want us to step on your
All right,
ground.
Jeremy, you're up.
Come on.
All right. Honorable Mayor and Council, here's Bart. Okay. Honorable Mayor and Council, happy to meet you guys this evening. Just give you guys a quick update on the Neighborhood Services quarterly report. Just to share with you guys had the opportunity to meet our new building official, Mr. Mark Harden. He took over last week, and he'll be our building official. Excuse me. We also have a new building inspector coordinator, Mr. Sanjay Soni, as well. That started Monday. And we still have Alicia Young as a permit tech, and we're looking to fill the building inspector position and also the vacant permit tech position as well. And of course, we still have the FTs from the previous meeting, and so we already discussed that, so a little time, we'll just skip through that. We have the health inspector, Ms. True Davis, we talked about we did not talk about that this quarter, excuse me. We have a new health inspector, Ms. True Davis, that started in December. And she's been here since December, and she's carrying forth that very well. Moving forward, we have Marquise Thomas, who came on, I want to say last fall, who just ended up getting his certification within a month. So he's a certified code officer. We also have Mr. Art Rogers and also Mr. Jose Lannis, also known as Ernest, who are signed up to take their class the next month. So they will also be moving to be certified code officers as well. And also we have our current neighborhood services officer. This position is vacant because Ms. Wright's going to be taking up one of those tricky issues the city's been dealing with, which is the right-of-way, because there's been a lot of complaints about cars in the right-of-way. She's going to be charged with basically cleaning it up. So that's going to be great to help get an eye solely on that moving forward with the city.
Just a sidebar, looking at people. Are they now equipped with body cams?
We had an issue with the body counts because of a tool that we did not have previously. We were fortunate enough to meet Axon at the facility in Irving 2 weeks ago, to get that tool in part. So we will be, once we get the training, because it's been a while since the training had been done, only 2 officers, 1 officer which is still that is still here, and another officer that left. So we're trying to retrain our officers so that way they can use it, provide any issues when they get into the field.
But we have them.
We have them, yes. We have them. We got the parts, so we're just going to get them tool, excuse me.
Could you talk just specifically about the different kinds of right-of-way motor vehicle violations that this right will be?
So that's actually not a neighborhood service, it's actually a police issue. One of the discussions we've always had is who handles cars. If it's at the house, it's neighborhood service. If it's in the streets, it's police. Coordinating those two together, we have a shortage of officers. We're down, as you know, about 10 officers. So when you come on, I'll give an example, on any street, someone may call and say, this vehicle has expired tags and has been sitting there for several days. Well, that's a police issue. But with officers dealing with a lot of the crime issues, we don't have someone dedicated who focuses on that. The city of Dallas, for example, versus having police officers dealing with these vehicles, they have traffic officers. And so what we're looking at is anything on city streets, we will have someone who can focus on all of the vehicle complaints that you get. And so that frees up our officers to deal with crime and other issues. And also tracking, that's a big, big issue. We're gonna be looking in this position at things like, what can we do to clean it up? So for example, we may decide that we wanna create 4-hour areas in our downtown district. We have vehicles that may have sit for 4 months. We've got people now who really understand when we start marking the tires, they know exactly when we're gonna come back. And so they'll rotate them. So that's how you measure it. So we're gonna not only look at how do we enforce it, but also go back and examine our regulations.
Okay. Thank you for answering that, even though it's not neighborhood services. Thank you.
Continue on. All right, just getting to the nitty grit, but I'll fast forward through this. If there's any specific questions, I'll be happy to entertain those specifically. We've had a total of 636 building inspections, which consists of the following list right here, which is normal from last time. We've had the 51 health inspections this past quarter. We have one officer, I didn't discuss this now, but in previous discussions, just to kind of do a quick ad-lib, Mr. Terrence Bass, who deals with the CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant, which consists of a number of areas in each of your districts, a small portion of one thereof. We've had 438 total addresses, a total of 743 cases, and 1,744 total inspections. In the non-CDBG, Terrence does the CDBG, he's done 264, total inspections 621, and total 269 cases total.
What's a case?
A case is a case, a violation has been opened and placed inside of MyGov.
And what time frame?
Time frame depends on specifically what those cases
No,
are.
I meant what's the measurement of this year?
Oh, this is from November to January. Okay. Planning cases, we've had 4 specific use permits that have also come before this body as well. We've had 1 replat, which does not come as per the subdivision regs, and we have one plan development that has also come before this body. Quarterly accomplishments, as you all know, Wheatland Plaza, this was approved and passed by this body, and that is actually going through the process of the initial stages. We're going through the building portion right now, so we're working on that, and that's going pretty well. Neighborhood service officers, I mentioned this before, Jose, Ernest Linus, and Art Rogers, they're studying to become certified code officers, so that's going to be a big assistance to us once they do. Once your question about the body cameras, they've been brought online, and once the training gets through, it'll be going through the usage. The comprehensive plan update, we're just starting that process now. Unfortunately, last week, our initial meeting, we had some issues with the weather, so we unfortunately had to push that back. Our first meeting is going to be this Thursday at 6:30 at the Senior Center. The public is invited to come. We've had some notifications out there to bring them out so we can get written commentary, similar to the commentary that you all received earlier today during the briefing, so that way we can compile that information and give it to this body, give it to planning and zoning so they can make a recommendation to this body, so that way a decision can be made. And also our Duncanville service, which is the app that you might notice through SeeClickFix, which is basically a very important tool that not only can the citizens report their cases, but they could also potentially in the future do follow a calendar on as well. And I believe this is all for my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you. Yes, sir.
Are the health inspection scores being posted?
Yes, sir, they are. They're being posted online every month.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, the Planning and Zoning Commission, so I know they've had a couple of meetings canceled and so on. Is there, as far as like zoning cases that they're currently supposed to be looking at, is there a certain time frame during which they have to review cases before? I don't know.
That's a very good question, sir. As of 2019, the state has introduced a shot clock. That's only for plats. As for zoning cases, they can be deferred, but there is notifications on that because, of course, every meeting has to be noticed 72 hours prior to, and also mail notice as well.
What is plats?
Plats are.
I meant, what's the time frame on plats?
Plats are 45 days.
And if you don't act, what happens?
If you don't act, it's automatically approved.
30.
30 days, I'm sorry. Thank you for the clarification, sir.
I was just gonna comment that after we had the briefing for our Duncanville here, I invited Alex and Francisco and David to come to coffee with the mayor. And they briefed our Duncanville to, how many do we have there? 25? 27 people. And they did a fantastic job, and I'm hoping that more and more can get exposure. Oh, there you go. They did a great job getting that out there. until you guys briefed it? Didn't really know what was going on.
We're working on some marketing stuff to get it even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Okay, very good.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Mark, you're up.
I'll teach you to go to the bathroom. You go last. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you before the council and city manager, city secretary. So, yes, this is our Parks and Recreation quarterly report for November through January as well, just as you saw for neighborhood services. We get started. We have 3 new employees during this time frame. You've met 2 of them already, Tyler H. and Angela Owens tonight. I also want to highlight Gregory Thomas. Gregory's our new irrigator. And why that's really significant is because we've been without that position for over a year. It's been a real tough position to fill. But Greg comes to us with lots of experience. He retired from the city of Austin.
That's a certified position.
It is. Lots of certificates.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You've been a great addition. We've also, it'll be a next report, but we've also added 2 new maintenance workers in the last couple of weeks as well. So we are now fully staffed full-time in parks maintenance for the first time in a really long time. So yeah, knock on wood. So it's great for us heading into the spring season for sure. Before we move on to, I want to add that Art and Ernest, that you talked about, were part-time employees at the rec center. So we are now an incubator for neighborhood services. So they were great employees for us, and we highly recommended them. So I'm glad that they're working out over in code enforcement. Neighborhood services, because they were great for us, and so I'm glad they were able to.
And they're good right now.
Further their career full time at the city. So for park maintenance, we had several different measures over the quarter. Obviously, we did all the Christmas decorations, moving everything over to Armstrong Park was a challenge, but it's something that our staff met and exceeded any expectations that any of us had. How that turned out, so we're really proud of that. So did lots of plantings. Obviously, the tulips are now coming up, so it's always exciting to see what colors they planted, because I never know. They never tell me until I see them. So the red and yellow looks really good. So was our athletics crew, and then of course the big highlight is completing the fitness stations at the 3 parks. That's been a huge hit with our community. I can't tell you how much I see that is being used here at Armstrong Park in particular. We do have 2 pieces of equipment that has a little bit of difficulty. It has some gasket issues. Those gaskets have been reordered and will be fixed soon. But other than that, the project is complete and has been a big hit with our community.
You and I had an offline conversation about the delay.
Mm-hmm.
Might want to.
That's in my presentation. I say that's the last slide. Say the bad news for last. Come on now. Yeah. So Key Duckville Beautiful obviously has always stayed busy. We had our Arbor Day celebration. They gave out 35 different tree saplings. And then we also did a project with members of our KDB as well as our high school students to develop a demonstration site at Lakeside Park for Texas Blackwood Prairie restoration. So we got that done. We have it roped off. And so there's 2 different plots of land that they can actually see how that looks moving forward. So hopefully maybe we can continue those efforts in Lakeside Park.
Is there gonna be any signage or something, when people walk by the
signs are up
area?
The signs are up.
All right, okay, good.
They were put up last week. Yes. Said do not mow, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Well, I guess I was, in reference to explaining.
What it is?
What it is.
No, we're just trying to keep people out of it.
It says Black Man Player.
It does say, but it does say it's a Black Man Prairie restoration site, but it didn't really explain any further than that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We can maybe put some information out there about that. Upcoming events is there for KDB is their annual garden workshop. Well, note that this date has moved as of this week to March 25th. So the Master Gardeners were not available last minute, so couldn't make this weekend. So we moved it to March 25th, and we're getting information out there to the community as we speak.
Same time?
Same time, March 25th. So Recreation Center, obviously during this time frame, November to January is our big membership push. So we had a huge membership addition of 516 memberships for this quarter. Quite a bit of visits. That's kind of typical of that time period because school is out for the holidays. So that's pretty normal. One program here I want to highlight is pickleball. That continues to grow. We're now up to 3 days a week. They probably do it 5 days a week if we let them. It's just an amazing sport, and it's taken off. And I went to a conference last week, at the Parks and Recreation conference. I talked to a number of directors. Pickleball is a big thing everywhere, and so it's amazing how the thing has just taken off. So
sorry, Mark.
You gonna ask for me?
Yeah, so I've been out, playing with them a couple of times, and like I said, it seems like it's really growing. Is there any discussion about any kind of special events, around pickleball?
not yet. However, I think it's coming for sure. I've not hit the chicken and pickle yet. It's on my list of places to go here soon. There's also a place in Fort Worth called like the Courtside Grill or something that has pickleball. So a lot of people are incorporating these into really destination locations with restaurants and things for people to come do in addition to the pickleball. So.
One thing I was told, Jeremy, is kind of a sidebar to your question, is that there's a couple of hardcore pickleball players in our city that said that they would not play in our rec center because it's not a natural wood floor. They will only play on a natural wood floor.
I guess the hardcore ones are that way. Now, if we were to do something like you mentioned,
what?
We could host it at the field house.
Yeah,
that's something that would be a great location to do that. So if someone came to us with an idea about doing something, helping us put it together, we would certainly be all ears. Some of our measurables for the recreation center, our events we had. The new event this year we had was Cookies with Santa, something for the first time. Santa Larry was incredible. He's a Duncanville resident, if you didn't know, and was just fabulous with the kids. He was really good with the photographer. He told everybody how to pose. He was fantastic. He was great. So I'd recommend him to anybody who needed a Santa.
It's because of him, Channel 8
Yeah.
showed up?
Yeah.
Because of Santa Larry, Channel 8 showed up at our Christmas party.
He's worldwide famous. He spends half his time at Mall of America in Minnesota, and the other half of the time at a mall in Chicago. So he's traveling during the holiday season quite a bit, back and forth. Some of our upcoming events: our Princess Tea Party is coming up on March 25th. Of course, our Easter egg hunt, April 8th. Our first Movies in the Park for the year will be April 15th, Uncharted. Our first concert will be Pure Blend, which is a Motown experience, on April 29th. Senior Center, again, we had 35 new memberships for this period. Our visits were down, but again, that's typical of this time of year for the Senior Center because of the holidays. Whereas the Recreation Center gets more busy, the Senior Center gets less busy during the holidays. So that's pretty typical. That's why you see a drop in the meals served for that order. Some of the events, you mentioned the coffee with the mayor, we always enjoy doing that. We're still doing our VNA. The VNA contract will be on your council agenda for next meeting to approve the contract for the meal service. And then we're into our last slide, which we'll talk about our bond projects, which So Armstrong Park, as you know, December 21st, you guys approved the 2 construction contracts. The materials now are on order. It's a 16 to 18 week lead time. So we're looking at starting sometime late spring, early summer. He hoped to be coming in and starting demolition in April or May. So we will fence the entire area of Kidsville and around the pavilion, just north of Pavilion, for that time period, which includes our big special events of Juneteenth and July 4th. We're working that into our plans, so know in advance. So
on the fort, I know there was some discussion way along in the past about pieces of the demo, selling them to pieces.
We are. We're going to work. Yes.
What's with that?
We are working on saving some of the larger pieces. We're going to get some of the spires. We're going to save those for a special project of some sort. We hope to maybe perhaps create a plaque wall with those as the end caps to place the old plaques on those to maintain the history of the original Kidsville. And then we're also going to be saving some of the better wood to give away to some of the folks who.
Yeah, because a lot of the people that helped construct that are
They
still
wanted
here.
some of the wood.
They wanted pieces of it.
They want some of the wood.
The gentleman right there was part of it.
I heard that we're going to make picture frames out of it. That's what they wanted to do.
Cool.
Yeah. Yes, we are doing this. Harrington Park, again, we've recently gotten updated budget numbers from the contractor. We provided that to to our administration folks and finance, and we're working towards identifying funding needs for all of our bond projects. And I know you'll all be talking about that probably in the near future with the city manager and
What were
everyone
the new
else.
numbers?
Just for the entire project, just a hair under 5 million. Yeah, so a couple million over budget. Yeah.
What's it called?
It's mainly because of the building. So what we're being told, the building cost has just gone through the roof. The inflation rate did slow the last time we got numbers. That was good news, I guess, but it has not gone backwards. So
Yeah, just so you know.
it's not getting cheaper.
Just so you know, this guy and I were there for the opening of baseball season, the Duncanville baseball. And he promised me that when season opened in 2023, Heritage Park would be complete. So I made a big deal about
Yeah, we did.
announcing her the whole thing.
We
When
did.
they come to open baseball in 2023, Heritage Park will be complete. So it's not. He's gonna be
Yeah.
a year off, so
Less than a month after we did that, we got the cost estimates, and we're like, whoa.
So you told,
Whoa.
they have been told that it's gonna be.
They have been told. We've been in communication with them throughout the entire process. We do have a project broken down into phases too, if we end up going that route. We have collaborated again with the associations on that and identifying the priorities. Priority, of course, is the restrooms and the congestion scenes. So that's in phase 1. Phase 2 would be the parking lot and the pavilion. Then phase 3 would be the trail and bridge, if we end up using a phasing approach.
Was the total over for
The total, everything was almost a little under 5 million. And the trails, I know during the last budget process, we were directed to work toward putting a trail underneath the power line easement on an Encore power line easement. I reached out to them, I met with Kenneth Govan, got their requirements for that. Their requirements do include detailed construction plans, something that, again, staff probably doesn't have the expertise to do. So I reached out to Half and Associates, who are probably the premier trail designers in the DFW area. They do lots of trails underneath power line easements specifically, which is why I chose them. So they'll be providing us a estimate here soon on providing us a cost estimate for those, creating those plans, as well as giving us a proper cost. So that's what we're doing there. Can I answer any question about that?
Your Motown event?
Mhm.
What is that?
It is a concert in the park.
You go back to that?
Yeah.
That one? All right, does anybody notice anything about the spelling of Motown?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a different type of Motown, I guess. Thanks for catching that. We'll make that correction before this goes public. Beyond this room.
It was just my time, so.
Yeah, you did good.
Wait a minute, I think Hobden is spelled wrong too.
Yeah.
I think it's H-O-B, it's H-O-B.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's Hobden.
yeah,
It's on right there.
that was right. That was right.
We'll leave it on what's right. Okay, any other questions? Thank you for saying. Yeah, it's all right. I'd rather do it here than putting it out in public and here's our house.
I just want to say again, I mentioned this in one of the meetings, and I went to the dad and daughter dance, and I mean, I just can't overemphasize how impressed I was with they just transformed.
It doesn't look like a gym, does it?
I
They
mean,
do a
when we
fantastic
walked in there, I mean, I didn't even feel like I was at the rec anymore. I mean,
Right.
it was incredible. So,
If you haven't seen it, they actually do a drop cloth. When you walk into the gym, they do a drop cloth immediately, so you don't see the game room at all. So you walk down this hallway where they have graphics going on, live graphics, and you go straight into the gym. It's all decorated. You have drop cloths covering all of the baskets and everything with lights coming up light from the back. And they do a fantastic job. So kudos to Noel and his team for that. They've done a fantastic job.
very moving experience. So yeah, I appreciate all the work that it is.
Change your Juneteenth, 4th of July, just so we can get it on record.
Sure.
Everybody knows.
Juneteenth will be June 17th. And I know Aretha mentioned earlier how much work Angela's already been putting into it, and I promise you it will be a fantastic evening. You will not be disappointed in how we represent Duncanville that night. It'll be a very, very special day, actually, because we have events actually starting earlier than just the evening event. There'll be some stuff going on at the library. Again, one part of the charges when my recent role was to kind of collaborate with the library and Parks and Rec, and so we got some library, do some author literary things in the earlier in the day. We're going to have the artifacts and some of the fun stuff that comes from Mr. Harvey, and his wife on display. And then, of course, a fantastic show planned for the evening, so you will be impressed. And then, of course, July 4th, we've nailed down our band for that as well here recently. Great, multiple piece band, similar to last year, just a different group, but a wide variety of music is what you will get next year, this year. Again, I think you'll be very happy with them. So.
Anything else? Okay, thanks very much, Martin.
Thank you.
And Tyler. Tyler gets to do it next time.
It's a drama for him to see, then he can do it next time.
Okay, with the conclusion of our business, that brings us to a